only equations that you're going to use for this test are these three. Okay. And that should say 2A. I'll make sure I fix it on the actual test, but this should say 2A, not 2Z. There is no 2Z. So can you fix that on your study guide? That should say 2A, not 2Z. Okay. So again, those are the only three formulas that we're going to use on this test. We will not be using these three. These were from the first test, so we can cross those out. Okay, so the domain, what's the domain of all graphs, all quadratic functions? All real numbers. The range for this graph is going to be your lowest y value. So this here is your vertex. So that's your vertex of the graph. That's at 3, -4. So let's go ahead and fill that in for part C. So that -4, that's your range. This number is your range. Is y is greater than or equal to -4. Is that going to be a minimum or a maximum? Minimum, good. Because it's a smile. Remember, smiles have minimums and frowns have maximums. Part E, is the A value positive or negative? Positive. All right, is this linear or non-linear? Linear means it's a straight line. That's what that means. This is definitely not a straight line, so it's non-linear. Non-linear means it's not a straight line. The axis of symmetry from your vertex, that would be this 3. So x equals 3. Now, can you circle or highlight these 4 terms? These 4 terms all have the same meaning. So the answer to I, K, H, and L, they're all the same. They're synonyms. Okay, so when we're looking at our graph, where does it cross through the x-axis? I'm going to zoom in. It crosses here and here. And what are those two numbers? 1 and what else? 5. So that's your answer to all 4 of those answers. It's 1 and 5. 1 and 5. 1 and 5. 1 and 5. You can also write those as order pairs. Yes. Sure. The y-intercept, if I zoom in really closely, it crosses the y-axis right here. There should be a box in the front, I think. And there's one by the pencil sharpener. All right, so the y-intercept, excuse me, that is at 5. I'm going to write that as an order pair. All right, any questions about number 1? And again, for where it says x-intercept, you should probably, you could also write this as order pairs for these 4. And I will post the answer key today. I don't remember how I wrote that. But just know that you can write it both ways. Okay, so these all go together. All right, now let's look at question number 2. Question number 2, you have to solve for x. So there's 2 steps. The first step is to subtract the 25. Which gives you x squared equals -25. And then to get rid of the square, we take the square root. Now the square root of a negative, we have to separate it. Anytime you see a negative underneath a square root, we have to split it apart. Does anybody remember what the square root of -1 is? I. Yep. Now, if you look in the front of the room, that 25 is one of the numbers I have in the front in pink, which means it's a perfect square. We don't have to make a cake. So does anyone know the square root of 25? 5. So you could write it like that, or you could write it like that. And that would be your answer to part A. For part B, though, we have to build a cake. So I'm going to start by subtracting the 20. So x equals square root of -1 times the square root of 20. Now, is 20 one of the numbers that you see on in the front of the room in pink? Yes or no? Nope, we got to build a cake. Anytime it's not in the front of the room, we have to make a cake. So let's go ahead and do that. Two goes into 20, 10 times. 2 goes into 10, 5 times, and 5 goes into 5 one time. So we're looking for a pair. So because we have a pair, that means that this is going to break down to a 2. And then this does not have a friend, so it has to stay. And does anybody remember again, what is the square root of -1? It's a letter, I. So you can write it like this, I2 root 5. If you look at my answer key, I probably switched that and wrote it as 2I root 5. But again, they're both the same. All right, C, you can check that on the answer key. Let's go ahead and move on to question 3. For question 3, you have to do the discriminant test, which is this right here, b squared minus 4ac. So in this one, a is 5, b is 8, c is -4. So let's go ahead and do it. B squared minus 4ac. B squared minus 4ac. Go ahead, type this in your calculator. Sean, what did you get for that first one when you typed it in? 144. Anybody else get 144? All right, so your discriminant is 144. So what does that mean? What'd you say, Noelia? 2 real solutions. Yep, that's what that means. Good job. If it's positive, you get 2 real. That is correct. So now let's do the next one. Again, you have your A, your B, your C. Go ahead, type that in your calculator. Angie, what you get for this one? -87. Anyone else get -87? All right, so I need everybody to lock in because this is a multiple choice question. Okay, I'm gonna help y'all out with a free point here. When it's negative, that means you have 0 real. But what's another way to say 0 real?
No solutions.
2 imaginary, or no solution. But 0 real is the same as 2 imaginary.
So people that we get extra credit.
You don't get extra credit.
You said double something.
You'll see on Wednesday. It's a multiple choice question. That's the only hint I'll give you. So it could be 0 real or 2 imaginary solutions. All right, and then when you do this last one, I'm pretty sure you get 0, and you should have 1 real solution. All right, the last one we'll go through today is number 4. This is a multiple choice question. All you have to do is reduce it. So you're going to look at these two numbers only. What can I divide into 4 and 14? I could divide these both by 2, which is going to change that 4 in the top to a 2 and the 14 in the bottom to a 7. Now that square root of 2, though, that does not change, and that would be your answer. For this next one here, 3 divided by 3 is 1, so that becomes 1 root 7 over 1, because you can divide 3 by 3, and that's how we get the 1. And then last one for today is 5 and 20. What number goes into 5 and 20? Not 4, 5. So what is 5 divided by 5? 1. And 20 divided by 5? 4. And then that root 10 has to stay. All right, so what I would like for you to do, and I will check this tomorrow at the beginning of class for extra credit. Come tomorrow with numbers 5, 6, 7, and 8 done. You get extra credit. We'll go through it tomorrow.